Hi guys, welcome back to episode 4 of our Revelation Space Book Club. I'm Kaylee.
And I'm Trevor, and hopefully we're getting to a revelation in space this episode. Intense. Let's set the scene here. So, Volyova walks into a bar. No, Volyova walks into a spaceport, and they're like, "Hey, what's up? You're gonna need to go through interstellar customs." Kind of like that Rick and Morty episode, Intergalactic Customs, except there's nothing in her ass. And
oh, okay. So not like Rick and Morty.
Not like Rick and Morty. And they're making her way through, and she has they put her in a bubble, and you're gonna have an interview with me to see if you get through customs. Pretty much how we do at the border nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you observed?
Just the lady, kind of grumpy, 8 hours into her 10-hour shift.
You
Sounds
know
like
how it
me.
is. Yeah, really? With your 1 hour lunch break?
It's a very long hour, actually.
So what happened when they walked into the bar? Or they walked into the carousel?
Kind of talking about all the different kind of people, or
It's diverse.
it's very diverse. Specifically the conjoiners.
Yeah, who have machine heads, and they have a sail, like a Spinosaurus sail, I'm pretty sure, or it's one of those dinosaur sails on their head that dissipates the heat from the machines in their head, which is pretty cool. It mentioned how they're the only ones who know how to make the engines for the ships, and talked about skyjacks, and which are people modified for space, and there was the Guidice who live in water, which I don't know. Do you like fish people?
I love fish people, Sea of Water. What is it? That movie?
The movie where she falls in love with the fish person?
Yes.
No.
Just like that.
No. In fact, actually, we're never going to mention Guidice again now that she's reminded me of this.
The Shape of Water.
Guidice adjourned. We're not talking about that anymore. Anywho, they walk into a bar. And when they walk into this bar, what are they doing? They're
having a friendly arm wrestle, typical bar stuff.
Two kids, one ripped the other one's arm off because it's it's sort of prosthetic. Get that stuff fixed up, man. Don't let your jiggly bits hang all over the place. Ew. Don't get your oil all over the place.
Ew.
Imagine.
Juices.
Yeah, but they want class these rapscallion teenage vagabond juvenile delinquents, and they walk into the bar.
They're already inside the bar.
Once they're in the bar, they order drinks. Sajaki, not Sajaki. What's his name?
Higazi,
yeah. Higazi. Higazi's really altered, he has tons of machine parts, and so he orders some, liquor and motor oil, I'm assuming. And they're here to look for a replacement for Nagormi, yeah. And then I think Sajaki's here to look for the guy who's gonna help the captain. Who are they looking for?
I think not looking for.
And they're looking for Sylveste. But he's not on the Yellowstone, we already know that, so they're a little bit out of luck.
Higazi and Ilya are sitting together still talking, and then somebody approaches them.
Who is it? No less than Serj.
In disguise, looking around for Sylveste, and then lets them know that Sylveste isn't even there anymore. Probably hasn't been there for a while, and now they're gonna go to Resurgam, which is where they think he is now.
Which is where we know he is right now, at least at this moment, because this is actually taking place before what we're reading about Sylveste. And they say when they went towards the Yellowstone system, they knew he was there from decades old data that would be decades old by the time they got there. So it's when you're 20 light years away, or however many light years away, the data that you got has been traveling for 10 years, And then you gotta travel for 10 years, so your dad, like, by the time you get there, everything's 20 years out of date. Crazy, but that's what they have to deal with. So now they're on their way to Resurgam. Bless you. Now, out of nowhere, it says that Curie wakes up 21, 23? 20 years later. So she got frozen for a while.
Curry's explaining the scenery of what?
Chasm City.
Yeah. And just how it changed. And then she sees this one guy who, to her, it's been like a couple minutes since they last talked, but to him, a couple years. And they're just talking. And then she realizes that the Mademoiselle has her husband, Curry's husband, this whole time. And so she's using him against her, saying, if you don't do what I want, like, I have your husband, pretty much.
Yeah, and when they describe Chasm City 20 years later, they remove the domes over the city, but they said they have this thing called the Lily that, like, takes the gas from the chasm and turns into breathable air that comes up. And they also have giant new towers that are replacing these, like, mangled plague trees. And they said, like, the conjoiners have done this. So we haven't seen too many conjoiners, but we're seeing their influence. Also, the Mademoiselle, she's like, yeah, I got a crew that needs your help, but they're not going to stick around too much longer. They're going to Resurgam, it seems like. Who is this crew, do you think?
I know. It's Volva.
Volyova.
Okay. It's Volyova's crew.
Duh. So now we jump back to Sylveste, except we jump back way past where he is right now. This is at, like, the Sylveste Institute, and this is, he mentions, before his dad, like, did whatever it was with the 80. And it says that Sylveste is 21. Now, if you remember, Sylveste is currently, like, in his 2nd century, so he's kind of, like, this is a long time ago. But it's actually not that long ago, I lied. It's actually Pascal doing a kind of augmented reality of Sylveste's memories that Sylveste is now living through to correct anything if it's wrong. And so this memory is him visiting LASCAILLE's.
Yep. And so he talks about how he's always kind of scribbling, or with crayons, kind of naked, half naked, kind of filthy. This is crazy.
Ape man, kind of.
Ape man that doodles.
Completely savage.
Exactly. And says that he's the only one to touch the surface of a shrouder.
And come back alive.
Mm-hmm. Which might explain why he's all little.
He's a little bit jarbled in the marbles, you know. So then it tells, like, how LASCAILLE's got to become a vegetable. So these shrouds had outposts around them, and, like, with people just in case. They're like, yeah, we need a person to go out and meet these aliens or whoever built these shrouds. But one day, LASCAILLE's like, screw it, I'm going right now. And so he hopped in a ship and flew out there, and he came back and half of his brain was gone. They say it was that it kind of scrambled the patterns in his brain, so he's still able to, like, move around and he's fine. It's just that, like, he doesn't really remember who he is. He just has, like, he's just a ghost of his former self.
Right. And lots of people try to copy what he did or try to get as far as what he did, but they either come back with half of their brain or just not at all.
Yeah, so not a good idea. They've run to, like, a roadblock on how to actually get into these shrouds. But that's when he comes out with this LASCAILLE's guy. He comes out of his trance because Sylveste would just visit him, right? And he just stand there for hours until eventually he just looked over and just was like, hey, here's the deal. Here's how you get into the shroud. And basically it's some crazy. He's like, yeah, it was all about the mind space, grind space. I had to get into the mind of the alien in order for it to let me get close. Because it imprinted all this stuff on his brain, and he's like, yeah, I haven't been talking for 10 years because I've just been processing it. It's pretty traumatic, because I have alien thoughts in my head now, so it's kind of weird. Anywho, he explains to him that he has to go to the pattern jugglers, which are like algae patch things, give them a gift, And then he has to ask them to implant the alien consciousness into his head so he can get close to the shrouds. What? Unfortunately, afterwards, he drowned in the fishbowl. Not in the fishbowl. In the bird pond. He drowned in his little pond. So, that's sad. He did now. When Sylveste goes to this juggler planet, he's actually frozen on the way there. Obviously, because it's a 20-something year journey. So he gets there 20 years later. He gets in the juggler planet, fills his mind with the aliens, and then sets off back to the Shroud, which is another like 10 or so light years in the other direction. So he's like missing 30 years while not aging like much more than a day. The reason they had to freeze him on the way to the jugglers is 1, 10 years is a long time to wait, and 2, they're worried that the transformation of his mind will wear off.
Okay, so we're with Sylveste and his crew in his ship, and they're trying to navigate their way through this kind of like tough course in space, and unfortunately the ship kind of splits and Sylveste gets split from his crew and like Lafir, and of course everyone dies, the ship gets destroyed. Sylveste is the only one that's alive right now, and it says that he steps into Revelation space.
But that's what we're going to have to find out next week when we figure out, did he have a revelation? Does Sylveste die? Isn't this in the past? Who knows? Check in next episode for Chapter 5. Alright, heading out. Goodbye.